Have you ever found yourself fascinated by those powerful, um, often hidden forces, the ones that really shape the destinies of legendary figures?
No,
The
absolutely.
people working behind the scenes, pulling the strings, sometimes for incredible success, and sometimes, well, tragically, for profound downfall.
It's a truly captivating aspect of fame, isn't it? Because so often the true architects of stardom, the managers, the strategists, they operate in the shadows.
Hmm,
Their contributions are endlessly debated, their motives constantly scrutinized, and that line between genius and exploitation, it can get incredibly blurred.
exactly. And today we're embarking on a deep dive into one of the most iconic, yet, well, profoundly controversial pairings in the entire history of music.
Elvis Presley and Colonel Tom Parker.
Elvis Presley and his utterly enigmatic manager, Colonel Tom Parker. This isn't just a trip through music history, folks. It's really a journey into the intricate dance of power dynamics, the profound shaping of identity, and the astonishingly high price of just unparalleled fame.
And the central question guiding our exploration today is really compelling.
Yeah.
Was Colonel Parker the brilliant mastermind, the undeniable architect who engineered Elvis's meteoric rise to global superstardom?
Hmm.
Transforming that raw, electrifying talent from Tupelo, Mississippi into the king?
Right.
Or conversely, was he a controlling, maybe even exploitative figure who stifled Elvis's immense artistic growth, isolated him from beneficial influences, and ultimately contributed significantly to his tragic early downfall?
Our mission today is to meticulously peel back the many, many complex layers of this story. We've gathered insights from an extensive collection of sources. We're delving into official court records that lay bare the often brutal financial realities of their partnership.
Hmm.
We're drawing from acclaimed, in-depth biographies like Peter Grolnick's definitive Careless Love and Alana Nash's equally insightful The Colonel.
Both essential reads on this.
Absolutely. And crucially, we're incorporating invaluable firsthand accounts from those who are closest to both Elvis and Parker throughout their intertwined lives.
And our goal here, you see, isn't to push a specific narrative or to tell you what to think. Not at all.
Yeah.
Instead, we aim to meticulously lay out the documented facts, explore the intricate, often fraught dynamics of their partnership, and ultimately help you, our listener, arrive at a more nuanced understanding of the truth behind this iconic and yet perpetually debated relationship.
A quick but important note before we jump in. This story inevitably touches on some difficult and sensitive themes. We're talking addiction, exploitation, significant long-running estate disputes.
It gets heavy.
It does. We'll be focusing strictly on the historical facts, the legal records, and verified testimonies gleaned directly from our sources, ensuring an objective look at these challenging aspects. Okay, let's unpack this. To truly grasp the complex, almost symbiotic dynamic between Elvis and Parker, we have to start not with the globally recognized king of rock and roll,
Right.
but with a man who wasn't even who he claimed to be.
Mm.
A man whose very identity was, well, a meticulously constructed illusion.
Indeed. The individual known to the entire world as Colonel Tom Parker was born Andreas Cornelis van Kuyk
Wow.
in Breda, Netherlands, June 1909. This fundamental, almost shocking revelation immediately shatters the carefully constructed persona he maintained, with unwavering vigilance throughout his entire adult life.
So not from West Virginia.
Emphatically not, as he so famously and consistently claimed, the good old boy, the American-born carnival man. Nope, Dutch immigrant. The significance of this truth cannot be overstated. It wasn't just a simple alias or a stage name. It was a complete and total fabrication of his entire identity, maintained with an almost obsessive level of secrecy and, frankly, paranoia.
And the layers of deception only deepen from there, don't they? Our sources unequivocally indicate that he immigrated illegally to the U.S. around 1929, slipped across the border, no papers.
Right. Undocumented.
And this undocumented status is far more than just a biographical footnote. It's a critical detail. It echoes throughout Elvis's career, especially when we get to the lack of international touring later on.
Absolutely crucial.
Parker, it's important to understand, never actually became a U.S. citizen. The intense secrecy around his past, this constant shadow of potential exposure, it became a cornerstone of his personality, didn't it? And by extension, his controlling management style.
Oh, completely. Imagine living every single day with that kind of secret, knowing one slip could unravel everything. Exposure meant legal trouble, public humiliation. Everything he built could vanish.
That deep, dark secret undoubtedly served as the primary fuel for his pervasive paranoia and, well, that almost insatiable desire for absolute control. Biographies, drawing from close observations, vividly describe how he likely fled Europe under legal suspicion.
Mm-hmm. Legal suspicion.
And those persistent rumors of a murder involvement
Yeah.
in the Netherlands, they just followed him. Whispers that never fully went away.
Right. And while those rumors remain officially unconfirmed, just the existence of that shadow, it would explain the extreme, almost pathological measures he took to maintain this fake identity, always looking over his shoulder.
How does a person live like that for decades, building an empire on lies?
It speaks to a deeply ingrained survival instinct, doesn't it? A profound psychological need to control every facet of his environment, and this crippling, ever-present fear of exposure, all of which he would absolutely project onto his relationship with Elvis.
And the complexity, or maybe the psychological fragility, it just intensifies from there. Even after arriving illegally, our sources say he tried to legitimize himself. Enlisted in the U.S. Army.
Under a false identity, of course.
Of course. But even that was short-lived and turbulent. He went AWOL.
Absent without leave. Serious offense.
Yeah. Got subjected to solitary confinement as punishment and ultimately was diagnosed with psychosis. Officially labeled mentally unfit for service. Discharged under very murky circumstances.
And what's truly fascinating here, and critical to understanding his later behavior, is how these early traumatic experiences, the paranoia, the control issues, the solitary confinement, that documented mental health diagnosis, how they manifest and echo throughout his life. They directly influence, maybe even dictate, how he managed Elvis.
So the isolation, the paranoia, that we weren't just quirks.
No, they were fundamental, deeply ingrained aspects of his personality, forged in those early traumas. They shaped his every decision, driving this relentless, almost desperate need for absolute command over Elvis and, by extension, every single aspect of Elvis's monumental career. It was almost like managing Elvis was his way of managing his own internal chaos.
Here's where it gets really interesting, almost unbelievable when you think about it. A man whose own identity was so fractured, whose personal history was so unstable, a man who couldn't even manage his own identity for the government, would go on to manage the biggest, most recognizable star on the planet. It's a mind-boggling leap, a paradox that just defies logic.
It really is.
Before he became the infamous Colonel to Elvis Presley, Parker was diligently honing his craft, or maybe we should say, refining his aggressive and often manipulative tactics within the burgeoning country music scene.
That's absolutely right. Parker meticulously built his early reputation working with a roster of established country artists, most notably figures like Eddie Arnold and the legendary Hank Snow.
Big names back then.
Huge. And this formative period was absolutely crucial for him. It let him develop, test, and relentlessly refine his utterly unique, often unorthodox approach to promotion and management. He wasn't subtle. He was known for what the biographies call aggressive carnival-style promotion tactics.
Ignorant style.
Oh, yeah. It wasn't just business. It was a performance in itself. Loud, flashy, relentlessly designed to grab attention by any means necessary. He was a showman, a barker, a master of spectacle. And he seamlessly, almost instinctively, brought that same high-octane, no-holds-barred sensibility directly into the music industry, transforming it in his own image.
You can almost picture him with a megaphone, can't you? Standing outside a tent, drawing in the crowds, making a grand spectacle of everything.
Yeah.
Pure carnival energy.
Exactly. And he applied that same intense, almost overwhelming energy to every artist he represented, demanding attention, theirs and the public's.
And this era also served as the crucible where his ruthless ambition was fully forged. The biographical sources consistently show he was notorious for manipulating his way into sole, absolute management roles.
He didn't just promote, he sought to control them entirely, pushing out anyone in his way. A particularly telling example, one that really foreshadows his later dealings with Elvis, is how he skillfully sidelined Hank Snow to take over Elvis's career.
Wait, Hank Snow? The guy who introduced him to Elvis?
The very same, essentially pushed him aside. And this wasn't a one-off opportunistic move for Parker, it was a clear pattern. Methodically taking full control, systematically pushing out rivals, consolidating his power base. This distinct modus operandi, this relentless desire for absolute dominion, was firmly in place long before Elvis Presley ever entered his orbit.
So his dealings with Elvis weren't unique for the king.
Not at all. They were simply the continuation of his established, highly effective, and deeply ingrained method of operation.
So Parker, this man defined by carnival barker energy, shrewd business instincts, and ruthless ambition, sets his sights on a young, electrifying talent from Memphis. This is the moment where the Elvis legend truly begins its ascent. But it's also, crucially, the very point where the seeds of profound conflict and eventual tragedy were irrevocably sown.
Indeed. Parker discovered Elvis in 1955, his attention drawn through Hank Snow's promotional circle. What he saw in Elvis was something truly unique, explosively potent. Raw, untamed charisma that no one else had quite grasped the full world-changing potential of.
Lightning in a bottle.
Exactly. And once he recognized that, he wasted absolutely no time capitalizing on it. He masterfully orchestrated what was, at the time, an absolutely monumental deal, the $35,000 RCA deal with Sam Phillips.
Elvis's original producer at Sun Records.
That's the one. Now, $35,000 in 1955. For a rock and roll artist, a genre still finding its feet, it was unprecedented, a staggering leap of faith, or rather, a staggering leap of business acumen on Parker's part.
That truly is incredible foresight, to recognize Elvis's potential so early and then secure such a massive, unheard-of deal. It genuinely seems like a stroke of genius at that moment. He was clearly operating at a different level.
He absolutely was.
But, as we've already begun to uncover with Parker, every seemingly brilliant move, every stroke of genius, almost always came with a hidden cost, didn't it? A deeply ingrained caveat.
Precisely. Once he had his foot firmly in the door, Parker wasted no time consolidating his power, moved with almost predatory efficiency. Our sources show he swiftly and decisively pushed out Elvis's previous manager, Bob Neal.
Who was loyal, but maybe just outmatched.
Exactly. Well-meaning, but outmatched. And this wasn't just about stepping into a management role. It was fundamentally about ownership and unparalleled financial control. Parker eventually negotiated himself a staggering 50% of Elvis's entire income.
50%.
50. And to grasp the gravity of that, our sources consistently highlight this was far above industry standard, just unheard of.
What was the standard back then?
Typically, maybe 10 to 20%, perhaps stretching to 25 for a real superstar. Parker demanded and got double that, 50%.
So what does this all mean for Elvis's career, his life, right from the start? The key takeaway here is that from day one, Parker embedded himself not just as a manager, but essentially a co-owner of Elvis's career. A 50% cut meant Parker had this enormous, almost unimaginable financial stake in every single thing Elvis did. Every record, every concert, every piece of merchandise.
I hate Elvis's button.
Right. It wasn't just a management fee. It was, in essence, a partnership, but one inherently rigged for exploitation. It set up a dynamic almost destined for conflict and financial imbalance.
From the very moment Parker officially took over, his control became absolute, creating what many now look back on as a golden cage around Elvis. He didn't just manage the career in the traditional sense, he micromanaged every single minute facet of it, left virtually no room for Elvis's own artistic input or personal autonomy.
But it's truly not an exaggeration, is it? The court records, the biographies, they consistently confirm his iron grip. Dictating recording sessions, deciding where and when Elvis toured, overseeing that vast merchandising empire, even severely limiting public interviews.
Suffocating control.
It had to be. Imagine being an artist, especially one as instinctively creative as Elvis, having every move, every artistic choice, every public word dictated by someone else.
Yeah.
It had to drain his creative spirit.
It absolutely did. And this control extended even to Elvis's public image and, crucially, his voice beyond singing. Parker notoriously restricted Elvis from appearing on popular talk shows, for instance.
Why?
He famously, almost chillingly, stated, "Don't let the boy talk, just let him sing."
Wow.
Now, what's fascinating here and revealing about Parker's strategic yet controlling mindset is he undeniably understood the power of the enigmatic star, the allure of the untouchable icon. But maybe more crucially, he also understood and feared the risks of an unfiltered personality, especially in that era's media landscape. So was this strategic genius to protect Elvis's mystique? Or was it Parker's fear of losing control, fear that Elvis might spill the beans about Parker's own hidden past?
And this fear of exposure, stemming from Parker's undocumented status, had massive implications for Elvis's global reach. Parker famously, stubbornly, refused virtually all international touring opportunities, despite Elvis being huge globally.
And this is exactly where Parker's hidden truth, his personal secret, directly and severely impacted Elvis's artistic and financial potential. The biographies, the legal docs, they link Parker's refusal directly to his undocumented status. International travel was impossible for him. Colonel Parker.
He couldn't risk leaving the U.S.
Never. Knew he might not get back in. So this wasn't about Elvis's best interests or market strategy or security risks. It was purely about Parker's personal secret. He turned down huge, lucrative offers, Japan, Europe, Australia.
And he lied to Elvis about why.
Constantly, fabricated stories about logistics, costs, risks, all while Elvis himself desperately wanted to tour abroad, connect with those global fans, but Parker manipulated him into staying stateside.
It's truly one of the biggest what-ifs in music history. Imagine the phenomenon Elvis could have been, even beyond what he achieved, if he'd toured Europe or Asia at his peak.
Boundless. The lost opportunities, artistic and financial, are almost immeasurable.
And Parker's suffocating control extended even to the music rights.
Oh, yes. To the very core, Parker notoriously insisted on owning a substantial portion of the publishing rights for virtually any song Elvis recorded, even if Elvis didn't write it. He wanted a piece of the ongoing publishing royalties.
So not just performance fees.
Nope. The underlying perpetual royalties. There's a telling example. Parker actively blocked artists like Dolly Parton from letting Elvis cover their songs.
Dolly Parton. He blocked I Will Always Love You.
Reportedly, yes. Because Dolly, quite rightly, wouldn't give Parker a percentage of her publishing rights for her song.
That's astonishing and deeply frustrating. He prioritized his cut over potentially iconic songs for Elvis.
It's such an extreme. It paints a stark picture of Parker's unwavering focus on maximizing his financial gain, even at the direct expense of Elvis's artistic collaborations or access to great material. It highlights the pervasive, almost all-consuming nature of his financial control over Elvis's most fundamental artistic choices.
After his military service and that sensational early success, with Parker firmly at the helm, Elvis's career took that dramatic and, well, arguably detrimental turn into Hollywood starting around 1960. But this wasn't the glamorous, artistically fulfilling path you might imagine.
Far, far from it. The biographies, contemporary accounts, they all highlight that Parker systematically signed Elvis into this relentless, almost factory-line stream of repetitive, low-quality films.
The movie years.
Yeah, roughly 1960 to 68, characterized by this immense output of movies that overwhelmingly prioritized quick, guaranteed profits over any semblance of artistic growth, creative challenge, or even critical acclaim.
The plots became formulaic.
Totally. Elvis as a charming but bland character, pretty girls, exotic locales, singing forgettable, generic tunes, Blue Hawaii, girls, girls, girls. Viva Las Vegas? Popular, sure, but they quickly devolved into this predictable pattern, devoid of real depth or ambition.
And the music in those films suffered just as much. Our sources consistently say Elvis was often forced to sing songs he openly hated. Tracks totally beneath his talent, like Old MacDonald.
In Double Trouble, yes. It's incredibly difficult, almost jarring, to reconcile the raw, rebellious energy of early Elvis.
The guy who changed everything.
Right. With him singing children's songs or saccharine pop numbers in these increasingly silly, creatively bankrupt movies, it truly diluted his brand, stifled his potential for serious roles, and drained his spirit.
That dilution wasn't accidental, was it? It was a direct consequence of Parker's control, prioritizing profit over art.
Absolutely calculated. And this profit-driven mindset became so pervasive that Parker even drove off creative collaborators like the legendary songwriting duo Leiber and Stoller.
The guys who wrote Jailhouse Rock and Hound Dog?
The very same. Brilliant minds. Parker's demands for publishing rights, his control issues, they pushed away top-tier talent like that.
Which, again, seems totally counterintuitive for managing a musical artist. You'd think you'd want the best creative team around your star.
You would if your primary goal was artistic excellence. But Parker's singular, obsessive desire for total control meant he systematically isolated Elvis from potentially enriching partnerships and critical creative input.
So he reinforced his own control, but at what cost?
At a significant, tragic cost to Elvis's growth as an artist, and, frankly, to the quality and enduring impact of his output during that period. Collaborators like Leiber and Stoller might have pushed Elvis, challenged him, helped him evolve, but Parker's rigid control meant those vital avenues were often closed off, leaving Elvis creatively stagnant and frustrated. A clear, devastating example of how Parker's control directly led to artistic stagnation.
By 1968, after nearly a decade of these formulaic films, something finally shifted. Elvis, the sources undeniably show, was desperate for a change, desperate to reignite that artistic flame, to remind the world, and maybe himself, of his true power as a performer. This led directly to the iconic, career-redefining 1968 comeback special.
This was indeed a truly pivotal moment, a rare, powerful glimmer of genuine artistic defiance for Elvis. NBC had planned a pretty straightforward Christmas special. And Parker? True to form, his vision was safe, saccharine.
What did he want?
He envisioned Elvis in a cozy red sweater, serenely singing Christmas carols. Predictable, family-friendly, inoffensive, designed for maximum general appeal.
But thankfully, someone else had a vastly different vision. The director, Steve Binder. He played a crucial role here.
Absolutely transformative. Our sources consistently highlight that Binder, sensing Elvis's frustration and untapped energy, helped him profoundly, gave him the space, the encouragement to take back creative control.
Which was huge, because for so long, Elvis had been almost a puppet in his own career.
Exactly. This was Elvis's chance to shed that Hollywood movie star veneer and show the world and himself he was still the king. A raw, electrifying live performer.
Yet a powerful example of this was his insistence on singing If I Can Dream.
Oh, incredibly poignant. This was a powerful, emotionally charged song, a direct tribute to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., assassinated earlier that year. And this flew directly in the face of Parker's rigid, deeply apolitical stance.
Parker wanted him to avoid anything controversial.
Always keeping universally marketable. Avoid social or political topics. So if we connect this to the bigger picture, this was a rare, courageous moment of genuine artistic agency for Elvis, pushing back against Parker's confines, embracing a message of hope that resonated deeply with him personally, even risking Parker's displeasure.
And despite Parker's initial bland vision, the special was a massive, undeniable success. It didn't just reinvent Elvis. It reestablished his credibility as this dynamic live performer, reminded everyone why he was the king.
Triumphant return.
Absolutely.
Parker was, by all accounts, completely blindsided by the creative direction, the raw power, and the overwhelming positive reception. He just hadn't anticipated it, nor the public's hunger for that authentic Elvis.
Well, he still managed to spin it.
Oh, yeah. Demonstrating his master manipulation skills, his uncanny ability to adapt, he brazenly took public credit for the special success. And leveraging the renewed hype, he immediately used it as a springboard to launch Elvis into his next, equally grueling phase. It showed that even when creatively outmaneuvered, Parker was still a master at monetizing and exploiting any situation.
With the triumphant success of the comeback special, Elvis was back on top, seemingly ready for a new era of artistic resurgence. But Parker, ever the shrewd opportunist, maybe with that gambling problem nudging him, quickly steered him away from sustained creative freedom and right into the grueling grind of the Vegas years, starting in '69.
And grueling is truly an understatement. Our sources, including legal depositions, detail this staggering 636-show deal Parker signed Elvis into with the International Hotel, later the Hilton, in Vegas.
636 shows.
Yeah. This wasn't just a residency, it was an unprecedented endurance test. A relentless treadmill. Elvis was sometimes performing 3 shows a night, nearly every night, for weeks on end.
Wow.
Imagine the sheer, unimaginable physical and emotional toll that kind of schedule takes on anyone, let alone a performer like Elvis, who poured his soul into every performance and who was already showing signs of declining health and increasing dependency.
And this relentless pace predictably took a devastating toll. Our sources confirm it's severely worsened. Elvis's already fragile health tragically exacerbated his spiraling drug dependency, the pressure, the exhaustion, the isolation of being trapped in that hotel. It all fed into this horrific cycle of rapid, visible decline. And Parker's response to Elvis's worsening struggles was chillingly pragmatic, almost inhumanly detached.
Indeed. Parker pushed Elvis onto that stage night after night, no matter the cost to his health, his well-being, his sanity. He famously, callously stated, "No matter what happens, that man is to be on that stage tonight."
Showing.
That quote illustrates the absolute callous prioritization of profit and contract over Elvis's fundamental human well-being. Elvis was, in Parker's eyes, a commodity, a product, a money-making machine. And Parker was single-mindedly determined to extract every last cent, even as Elvis visibly deteriorated. A spectacle witnessed by millions. This unyielding focus on profit would ultimately prove devastating.
And it wasn't just about the money Elvis was earning for Parker. Our sources also reveal that darker reason for the Vegas grind. Parker himself had a severe gambling addiction, reportedly losing millions at the Hilton casinos.
Millions. And this raises an absolutely critical, deeply uncomfortable question. How much of Elvis's grueling, health-destroying schedule was truly for his career, and how much was actually designed to service Parker's escalating destructive personal vices?
Could the Hilton have been forgiving Parker's debts?
The sources strongly suggest, and later legal findings support, that the Hilton may have forgiven Parker's massive gambling losses in exchange for Elvis's continued guaranteed appearances.
So Elvis was basically working off Parker's debts.
It certainly looks that way. Parker's profound financial dependency on the Hilton due to his gambling may have directly contributed to Elvis's burnout, effectively forcing him to continue an unbearable schedule just to keep his manager afloat and out of ruin. It painted Elvis into an inescapable corner, binding him to Parker not just creatively, but financially, through Parker's own reckless, self-serving decisions.
The pressure cooker of Elvis's life, fueled by Vegas and Parker's financial maneuvering, reached a critical peak in 1973 with what's now seen as one of the most disastrous business decisions in music history: the infamous master catalog sale to RCA.
This deal was absolutely monumental in its implications. Parker, acting for Elvis, sold Elvis's entire back catalog, the invaluable master recordings of virtually all his songs up to that point, to RCA for $5.4 million.
Sounds like a lot of money.
It was initially split 50-50 with Elvis, but the long-term devastating ramifications were catastrophic. Selling the masters means giving up that ongoing royalty stream forever.
Why did Parker do it? He claimed Elvis needed cash for the divorce settlement with Priscilla.
That was the rationale given, and the settlement was certainly a significant expense. But in hindsight, a truly short-sighted, almost criminally negligent justification for such a monumental, irreversible decision about Elvis's long-term financial future.
So what were the long-term effects?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this deal effectively deprived Elvis, and crucially his heirs, of hundreds of millions, if not billions, in future royalties. Think about it. Every time an Elvis song from before '73 is played, streamed, licensed for a movie, those royalties, they no longer flowed to Elvis or his estate. They went straight to RCA.
Hundreds of millions, maybe billions.
That's the estimated loss over the decades. It's widely seen as one of the worst business decisions in music history precisely because it stripped Elvis of an ongoing perpetual income stream that would have been vast, enduring, and exponentially more valuable than that initial payout.
Okay, let's unpack this. How could a simple sale have such a devastating, long-lasting impact? It speaks to a profound lack of understanding of future value on Parker's part, or maybe.
Or perhaps a deliberate choice. Sacrifice immense long-term gain for immediate cash. The truth likely lies in Parker's own dire financial straits. It strongly suggests Parker was under immense personal financial pressure, quite possibly from those gambling debts, making him absolutely desperate for a large, immediate payout, even at the irreversible expense of Elvis's future security.
Short-term thinking versus long-term strategy.
Undeniably. He was brilliant at the initial deal, getting that big upfront sum, but he seemed to consistently miss or maybe deliberately ignore the compounding value of continued ownership. It's like selling the golden goose for one big payout, forgetting about the endless stream of golden eggs.
The pressure cooker of Elvis's life, intensified by Vegas and Parker's desperate financial decisions, eventually led to a very public, emotional breaking point for Elvis himself in 1973.
Indeed. During an onstage performance at the Hilton, Elvis, visibly at his breaking point, just lashed out publicly, criticized Hilton management, the food, the service.
Wow, on stage.
On stage. This wasn't just a fleeting moment of frustration. It was a clear, desperate sign of Elvis's growing emotional fragility, the unbearable pressure he was under. He was cracking. And in a rare, unfiltered moment, he used his public platform to air his grievances. A stark cry for help few truly understood then.
And this outburst led to a direct, explosive confrontation with Parker.
Oh, yeah. Our sources, particularly Guralnick's biographies, state that afterward, in his hotel suite, a completely fed-up Elvis, consumed by anger and desperation, finally told Parker unequivocally, "You're fired."
He actually fired him.
He did. This was Elvis's desperate attempt to break free, to finally take back control of his own life and career, reclaim some personal agency.
But Parker's response?
Immediate and utterly ruthless. A masterclass in manipulative, financially coercive tactics. Sources confirm he instantly responded with a staggering $2 million invoice for services rendered.
$2 million in 1973 money.
Equivalent to well over $13 million today. This wasn't an opening bid for negotiation. It was a brutal financial chokehold, designed to be impossible to counter. Parker knew Elvis was deeply in debt, especially after the divorce. This massive invoice was designed to be impossible to pay, effectively trapping Elvis, binding him even tighter. It highlights Parker's Machiavellian financial leverage and just how deeply ensnared Elvis really was.
And tragically, heartbreakingly, Elvis backed down. Our sources report he was left devastated and manipulated, crushed by Parker's ruthless countermove. This moment was absolutely critical. It starkly showed that despite his immense fame, his global stardom, his seemingly vast wealth, Elvis was fundamentally, inescapably trapped. His courageous attempt to break free was swiftly, brutally crushed by Parker's overwhelming financial leverage, left him with no real recourse, emotionally shattered, completely resigned to his gilded cage. From that attempted and tragically failed firing in 1973, Elvis's life descended into this rapid, highly visible collapse, playing out in plain sight for the world right up until his death in '77. It's a truly heartbreaking period.
It is indeed a tragic period to examine, made all the more poignant because it unfolded so publicly. Our sources consistently confirm the tour schedule remained absolutely relentless, almost inhumanly so, even as Elvis's health visibly rapidly declined.
He was often too sick to perform well.
Frequently, too exhausted, too dependent on medications to perform anywhere near his peak. Yet Parker kept pushing him onto the stage, prioritizing bookings and revenue over any real concern for Elvis's state. The once vibrant performer became a painful shadow of his former self, an agonizing reality audiences witnessed firsthand. Countless anecdotes exist. Elvis stumbling through lyrics, disoriented, sometimes collapsing backstage, only to be propped up for the next show.
And as his health declined, his inner circle, his support system, also dwindled.
Exactly. Those who genuinely tried to help, loyal friends like Jerry Schilling, either left voluntarily, feeling powerless, or were actively pushed out by Parker. The Memphis Mafia, his closest companions, dwindled significantly, left him increasingly isolated.
And Parker saw the Memphis Mafia as a threat.
What's truly fascinating and profoundly disturbing here is how Parker viewed them. Yes, a direct threat to his absolute control. They were independent voices, people Elvis trusted, who might offer alternative advice, express concerns about his health, or, crucially, challenge Parker's decisions.
Like Red and Sonny West, his cousins.
Biographical accounts specifically mention Red and Sonny West, longtime loyal members, were summarily fired in 1976, a move actively backed, if not orchestrated, by Parker. He saw them as a liability due to their concerns about Elvis's drug use and Parker's management. This systematic isolation left Elvis increasingly alone, vulnerable, without any buffer against Parker's demands, severed him from his most trusted allies.
And throughout all this, as Elvis's health worsened, dependency spiraled, personal life fragmented, Parker's stance remained chillingly consistent.
Almost clinically detached. The sources are unequivocally clear. Parker never intervened to help Elvis get well. He only booked more shows. No real help, no respite, no sincere attempt to get Elvis the desperately needed medical and psychological intervention. It underscores the profound depth of his prioritization of profit and control over Elvis's well-being.
Elvis was just a cash cow to him.
That's how it appears, an unparalleled income generator. And Parker's singular focus was to milk that cow for all it was worth, regardless of the devastating cost to the man himself. Elvis's decline wasn't a problem to solve, but a challenge to work around in the relentless pursuit of more revenue.
August 16, 1977, a date forever etched in history. Elvis Presley died. But even in death, the long shadow of Colonel Tom Parker loomed large, almost orchestrating the final act.
On that fateful morning, Elvis was actually preparing to fly to Portland, Maine for yet another tour date.
Another show.
Another show. He was found dead in his Graceland bathroom early that morning. Parker, ever the advance man, ever focused on the next gig, was already in Maine, meticulously setting up for the concert, demonstrating his almost pathological dedication to the touring machine right up to the very last moment.
And his immediate reaction to the news? Chillingly pragmatic, almost no emotion.
That's how it's reported, widely recounted. Parker's notorious, quote, utterly devoid of sentiment was simply, this doesn't change anything.
This doesn't change anything.
Wow. That quote is profoundly disturbing. It immediately pivots from the human tragedy to the cold, hard reality of the business enterprise. And he wasted absolutely no time acting on it. Sources confirm he immediately began monetizing Elvis's death almost before the body was cold. He famously stated, with almost clinical detachment, "Elvis isn't dead, the body is, but the image is still alive." It reinforces that prevailing view of him as a ruthless, calculating businessman above all else, seeing Elvis as a product, a brand, an entity to be exploited, even in the immediate aftermath of his tragic death. No grieving period, just immediate calculation, how to capitalize on the tragedy, the surge of public emotion.
Following Elvis's death, the battle for control of his colossal legacy began. and it quickly became this contentious, high-stakes fight between the entrenched Colonel Parker and the newly forming Elvis Presley Enterprises, EPE.
Initially, Vernon Presley, Elvis's grieving father, the estate executor, maybe out of habit or lingering loyalty, allowed Parker to stay on as an advisor.
But Vernon died in '79.
Right. And after Vernon's death, the tide irrevocably turned. A legal guardian, Blanchard Toole, was appointed to oversee Lisa Marie's inheritance and, crucially, to investigate Parker's extensive, often opaque business dealings with the Presley estate.
And Toole's investigation. It was a bombshell, wasn't it? Our sources state emphatically his report exposed Parker's self-dealing and unethical control on an unprecedented scale.
Not just exorbitant commissions. Outright conflicts of interest, deceptive accounting, exploitative maneuvers that had systematically bled the estate dry for years, enriching Parker at every turn. It revealed the true extent of the financial exploitation.
So what did the report conclude?
That Parker's 50% commission was not only exorbitant, but often applied to gross income before expenses, and that he'd made numerous deals unequivocally benefiting himself over Elvis. Particularly that devastating master recording sale and the extended Vegas residency linked directly to his gambling debts.
And the legal fallout.
Swift,
Yeah.
decisive, a vindication for the estate. Parker was forced to surrender all remaining Elvis-related income, all intellectual property rights, all physical items to EPE.
EPE, now led by Priscilla Presley and Jack Soden.
Exactly. They effectively wrested full control of the brand and its future from Parker's grasp.
So what does this all mean for Elvis's legacy? The ultimate implication is that the very empire Parker built, the one he fought so ruthlessly to control, was ultimately taken out of his hands through legal action. This ensured Elvis's legacy would finally be managed by his family, not the man who exploited him, securing the future of Graceland and the Presley brand.
Yet, despite this legal defeat, the overwhelming evidence of exploitation, Parker's legacy remains incredibly divisive. Paradoxical, almost. Our sources note that some credit Parker's aggressive licensing deals as having laid the undeniable foundation for Graceland's enduring financial success.
That's the paradox, isn't it?
It's the core paradox. Parker's almost maniacal focus on merchandising, his relentless pursuit of revenue from every angle, arguably created the very infrastructure, the commercial machine, that would eventually solidify Elvis's legacy even after Parker was removed. He built the brand, then ultimately lost control of it. His groundbreaking, if ruthless approach was undeniably revolutionary. Without it, maybe the post-mortem empire wouldn't be as robust as it is today.
Despite the exploitation, it's genuinely hard to deny Parker possesses certain, maybe twisted genius, particularly in marketing branding. He understood celebrity power early on.
Absolutely. Our sources confirm Parker quite literally created an astonishing merchandising empire around Elvis, truly revolutionized how artists could monetize their image, extend their brand beyond just music sales. He sold everything imaginable, from standard fan stuff,
records, posters,
to truly audacious, almost comical items. A fascinating detail. He even sold both pro-Elvis and anti-Elvis buttons, including I Hate Elvis pins.
That's brilliant in a perverse, cynical kind of way. It shows this incredibly astute understanding of market dynamics, even harnessing negative attention to drive sales and keep Elvis in the conversation.
He was capturing every possible angle of public sentiment, good or bad, truly groundbreaking for its time.
He marketed Elvis as a total brand.
Exactly, a cultural phenomenon, not just a performer. This set a precedent virtually all major artists still follow. He instinctively understood Elvis transcended music. He was fashion, attitude, lifestyle. And Parker found ingenious, often ruthless ways to monetize every facet, ensuring Elvis's image was ubiquitous.
And perhaps the clearest, most undeniable example of Parker's visionary, albeit almost always self-serving genius, was the Aloha from Hawaii concert in 1973.
An extraordinary feat. Marketing, technology, sheer spectacle. The first ever satellite concert broadcast worldwide from Hawaii, viewed by an estimated 1 and 1.5 billion people globally.
1 billion people in 1973. Incredible.
Imagine that reach. Connecting a global audience in real time. It was meticulously presented as Elvis's triumphant return, global celebration, reaffirming his status as the king. A staggering demonstration of what was possible.
But as our sources tragically reveal, this grand spectacle, this magnificent illusion, expertly hid the cracks beneath. It was breathtaking, yet ultimately deceptive, cleverly designed to distract from the deteriorating reality of Elvis's health, his struggles, and Parker's own deepening financial troubles.
Exactly. Parker masterfully used the immense hype and global attention from Aloha from Hawaii to finalize what we discussed earlier, that devastating master sale of Elvis's entire back catalog to RCA.
So even that brilliant feat was tied to the bad deal.
Directly. So even this testament to Parker's promotional genius was ultimately tied to his darker financial motives, a deal costing Elvis and his heirs millions. It's a perfect, tragic encapsulation of Parker's paradox. A visionary who often used his brilliance not for shared success, but primarily to serve his own exploitative ends, sacrificing long-term gain for immediate, desperate financial relief.
Colonel Tom Parker's story ultimately concludes, much like it began, shrouded in mystery, marked by undeniable impact, but eventually fading into a quiet, almost reclusive decline.
After being legally sidelined from Elvis affairs by EPE, Parker retired to Las Vegas, the city where he'd gained and lost so much. Sources describe him becoming obese, intensely reclusive, largely forgotten by the industry.
But he still made some money.
While no longer at the helm of the Elvis empire, yeah, he still managed to earn some money. Occasional speaking appearances, minor licensing deals, a testament to his enduring, albeit controversial, recognition. He died January 21st, 1997, almost 18 years to the day after Vernon Presley passed, buried in California.
Even now, decades after his death, the Parker myth endures, fiercely debated, profoundly complex. Modern portrayals split between evil genius, relentless exploiter, and misunderstood genius, shrewd businessman in a new industry. He defies easy categorization.
It is, absolutely. The core argument boils down to this fundamental paradox.
Yeah.
He undeniably elevated Elvis, took him from regional sensation to global superstar, a cultural force that reshaped the world.
No denying that.
But almost in the same breath, he also arguably limited him profoundly creatively, pushed him into those formulaic movies, restricted his artistic freedom, his international reach. The paradox is stark. Without Parker, Elvis might never have become the king as we know him, the global legend, the icon.
Right.
But equally with Parker, Elvis may not have lived as long, and certainly not with the artistic freedom, the genuine creative expression he so desperately craved and deserved.
So what does this all mean for us, the listeners, looking back? Was Parker's ultimate impact positive or overwhelmingly negative? His legacy remains hotly debated, passionately argued. No easy answer. He was the architect of an unparalleled career, building an empire that thrives today. But he was also, arguably, the architect of a magnificent, glittering, but ultimately soul-crushing golden cage.
Their relationship was a living paradox, an extraordinary tapestry built on threads of loyalty, profound fear, unimaginable fame, absolute power. And like so much of Elvis's tumultuous life, the full truth, the complete balance sheet of gain and loss, may never be fully known, perpetually shrouded in the mystery Parker himself cultivated. It's a story that fascinates because it touches on universal themes: ambition, control, art, the often devastating human cost of extraordinary fame.
As you reflect on this deep dive into the tangled, controversial, utterly captivating legacy of Colonel Tom Parker and Elvis Presley, consider this. If Parker had never crossed paths with Elvis, if their paths never intersected, would we still have the king as we know him today? Or would a different, perhaps freer Elvis have emerged? And how might his legend, his music, his life have unfolded differently without such a controlling hand at the helm? It's a question inviting endless speculation, underscoring the profound impact one individual can have on another's destiny, shaping not just a life, but an entire cultural phenomenon.
A relationship that forever changed the landscape of popular music and continues to spark debate to this very day, a testament to its enduring complexity and impact.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the complex and often controversial world of Elvis Presley and Colonel Tom Parker. We encourage you to keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep digging beneath the surface of the stories we think we know.